Okay. All right. Well, welcome to all of us, and welcome yourself. Pat yourself on the back. You're sitting in a chair. You're safe from all the virus culprits out there trying to make their way in. And you're like, no, afuera, y'all stay out. I'm safe in here. And we're going to share poetry. Maybe we're not going to be safe because we're about to share poetry. Maybe we're going to be unsafe in a different way. But I mean, what's not safe? Richard, can I ask you, let me pose this because you're the MFA poet here, or maybe others are, but I'm going to call on you if you don't mind. How would you respond to that? My having said that if poets around are available or about to be shared, that it might create an unsafe environment. For whom or for what is poetry unsafe?
I find that calling me an MFA poet makes me feel unsafe. For one thing, because even though I did an MFA when I was 40 or something, I did it because I wanted to not live in New York City and not work. I did it to get loans so I could write a lot. Yeah, that's about all. But it was, that generally within the MFA program I was in, I found that if I did stuff that, a lot of the stuff that I did, people didn't consider terribly safe. And I'm not talking about content necessarily, but so I welcome I welcome provocation. It's a terrible age to be a provocateur because there's so many people posing as provocateurs who are really just brats who like to break things, which is different than saying do we see the same sky?
There we go. So maybe one's idea of what the sky is for them can be threatening or a little bit scary to hear. But I'm here to hear it all. Give me all of your skies. Let me know what the sun's doing in your corner, your pocket of the world, above you or below the horizon, if it's sunk already for the day. So theoretical conversations out of the way, I guess. We're gonna embark on a really great night of sharing on the theme or not on the theme, because maybe I should clarify that not everything that's read or shared tonight or improvised tonight has to relate to the asserted theme. It's just a way to get people, it piques their interest. They're like, ooh, secrets. Maybe I'll check that out tonight. But also maybe you do have some confessional poetry you've forgotten about. You got to dust it off, and tonight is a good night to share it. But also, of course, we all welcome hearing other themes and topics discussed and brought up in our written work. So having said that, I don't know, there may be some housekeeping things. I don't know. We'll take a little bit of a break if we need to. That's usually by consensus. Sometimes we just roll on through without taking a break. I have some little different things to show and share, a little bit different because I worked on it earlier instead of taking a nap. Richard, I didn't get that nap.
I took a nap. That's why I was late. Yeah.
Oh, I'm happy for you in your napdom. But yeah, we use the chat to give each other encouragement or to share our social media connections or emails. If folks want to, be in touch with us, that's a great way to put it down there so they don't have to write with a pen or pencil right now. But also, if you have a book for sale or you're about to do an event, you want to share a link to a website about an event. I sat in earlier this afternoon, for me it was afternoon, when Richard read earlier in another setting, and that was great. Of course, it was virtual. I did not fly to Oakland round trip in 2 hours.
That reading was out of New York anyway.
Yeah, it was, wasn't it? But there were people from all over. So like the person from Denver and Philadelphia. There's really a lot of variety. I enjoyed it. Anyway, yeah, Richard, you're busy today. Do I have a volunteer for somebody who'd like to read first? I accidentally turned off my other computer, so all my poems went away. So I can't start. Turn on the computer. Okay.
I am going to jump off the cliff.
Yay!
And volunteer. This is really, well, thank you. Yeah, catch me as I fall, right? I thought about when I was here last time and how safe it is. And poetry for me is something I've put on a pedestal and never thought I could write. But something, and then I talked to Jeffrey, who apparently whips out poems, the drop of a cat, as it were, with the help of Aristotle, the cat. So this happened yesterday, and it's kind of dedicated to the group and what this symbolizes. This dancing ground, this meeting ground of change, worlds beyond the skin enact, spirits from the worlds within, bridges to home align, knowings our different ways, contained in the words we carry, shared when we can.
Yay! Oh, I'm so used to not to have my.
Thank you. Thank you.
Oh yeah, please make noise. Yeah.
I
please
forgot
make
to
noise.
mute myself, so I'm not going to. Yeah.
No need here. Maureen, thank you. Thanks for your bravery, but it sounds like you don't need to be brave here because you feel like one of the gang.
Thank you.
Lovely piece, great intro piece too for the night. I appreciate that.
I'll share a thing or two, if I may.
Oh yes, Richard Loringer.
Well, a lot of times you start these by saying, well, how's everybody's week's been? Has anything happened? And you didn't this time, but I have a little story of something happened to me this week that I thought was worth sharing. And then I have a tiny piece to show. So
okay.
About a week ago, I had I had a very minor injury, but a stupid one. I was on hiking with a friend, and we had stopped along the way, and I was slicing an apple with my little Leatherman knife, and I sliced the shit out of my finger, like needed 3 stitches. Like it was a deep cut, and I was on a hiking trail up in the hills, so we had to hike out, and we both knew first aid, and it was fine. Was bleeding a lot, and then I went down to my Kaiser, to my HMO, to get some expensive stitches. Anyway, so when I go into the ER, which was not super crowded, but as I go in, you have to go through the security, and there's this gigantic security dude there, gigantic to me, and and a metal thing, and I was like, a couple people in front of me, and he asked the same question, and he asks, do you have any weapons or anything that could be used as a weapon? And I say, yes. I say, I have a knife in my bag, and I cut the shit out of myself with it. That's why I'm here. He's like, well, you're going to have to hand it over. And I said, can I get it back when I leave? Having lost knives at a couple of clubs in the past, never mind. I don't really carry on knives for a nefarious reason, but I often have a pocket knife. Anyway, so he's like, okay, and he takes it. He asked my name, and I'm going to put it in the bag. Just ask me when you leave. And I go and I get in line in the semi-crowded ER, and then this guy, he sort of sticks his head out of the little foyer that he's in, and he shouts across the ER, hey, I forgot your name, guy with the knife.
Oh God. Guy with the knife. Oh my God. Famous last word.
Guy with the knife to everyone in there, and everyone looked at me, trying to figure out what that meant. I thought that was a nice moment in my week. Yeah, where I became guy with the knife. I'm like the most innocuous. Yeah. So
how long was the blade, Richard?
Leatherman. This is a mini Leatherman, and the whole thing is like maybe 3 inches. It's probably like 2, and you fold it out like a Swiss Army. It's just, they're super easy to carry. They're really good. There's like about 6 different tools on it, and like a mini Swiss Army knife with a very sharp blade. Can I share screen? Because I would like to show one thing and read it.
Sure. Did the apple survive?
No, the apple did not survive. We'd eaten about half of it, and You have to enable share screening for me. Is that the big?
Yeah,
Okay.
I'm
Yeah,
getting
no,
there.
the apple got kicked across the trail. Yeah, I threw it on the ground when I cut myself because it was you kind of notice sometimes when you do that shit. I just cut myself kind of badly, so the apple went flying.
Okay, try now. See if it comes up.
Yes. Okay, so I'm going to show you the poem and I'm going to read it off a different screen. So this is a not great photograph of the poem, but it's okay. I actually did this while I was in that MFA program years ago. I was doing
Beautiful.
lots of stuff like this. I wish you could see it, but I'm going to read it. I'm not going to be able to see you, but I'm going to read it. I'm going to read the words on it. And it's called My Little Secret. It made me think of it. It goes, oh, wait, can you still see the picture?
Yes, it's up while you're talking. Yes.
Okay, great. I haven't read this out loud in decades, I think. My little secret pushes up daisies, can't smell a rose bush, sleeps in a rock slide, climbs on your pillow, slides in your ear hole, takes all the candy, lives like a slingshot, fucks in the open, sings like a bull moose, cries like a sparrow, can't find a mirror, lies in the grass and kicks up the mushrooms, buys all the popcorn, throws it all over, farts in the springtime, calls every morning, is quite a number, flies out the window, pees in the meadow, eats nasty insects, loves Kama Sutra, pets all the kitties, tickles the raindrops, changes the music, dances the two-step, chats with the monkeys, makes fun of fancy, chops down the tower, cans all your nightmares, fills all the gas tanks, lights all the candles, dallies with lovers, sees through the bullshit, finds all the treasure, cancels the lightning, fondles the lovely thought every evening, can't quite remember if there's a heaven, puts on a nightgown, will dream of matches, did spill the chalice, went in the corner and made a picture of your retainer, picks up the difference in your expression when you discover it is you. Anyway, and the interesting thing about that is, I drew the shape and then I wrote the thing on it. It wasn't pre-written. So it's just like, if it comes out okay, I can show it to people. And if not, I have to,
Amazing.
Yeah.
So lovely. I love the background color. It makes it look like granite, some kind of stone.
Yeah, it's just like a piece of, artboard. And I use just black oil pastel for the words. So you have to kind of look at it. That's all.
Thank
My
you.
little secret. Yeah.
I like the rhythm.
Yeah, it's hard. I hadn't tried to read it in so long. That was sort of like it. Oh, it has that. It has that. Yeah. So I kind of fell into it's kind of a child, like a child, children's thing or something. I can't talk now.
It's very unsuspecting. I mean, it's yeah, it just seems Hallmarky from a distance, and then you get up close and hear it, and you're like, okay, there's all kinds of things in here.
Just about doing what you feel like you should do, I guess. That's my secret. I do what I want to.
Trusting your process.
Oh my God, secrets are so scary. Secrets have torn my family apart, so I try not to keep them.
There's a piece I might want to read if I can get to it. Being broke stiffens you. Yeah, I was watching a film called Mapplethorpe earlier this week, and no, it wasn't Maple. I was watching that, so now I watched that. But I was watching the TV series on Hulu. I think it's called This Idiot. It's Chicanos I guess in LA. It's great. It's funny.
It's hilarious.
Maybe there's some things I shouldn't laugh at, but I laugh at it because they're laughing at themselves. They know they're wrong. Anyway, one of the lines that main characters, he's approached by, or he notices somebody in his driveway getting all the cans to go and sell them. And he gets real defensive about protective or possessive of his empty soda cans. And the guy says, no, you don't need the money. I'm poor. You're broke. There's a difference. I need the money. I'm poor. An unhomed person was saying this to the dude at the house. So that's interesting, that distinction. So it reminded me of this poem. And I don't talk too much about, money stuff, but this poem shares a lot. Being broke stiffens you, makes you whittle down against pleasure and whim, asks you to rethink a $5 train fare to see Dago in Dallas, and reminds you to save the Whataburger coupons for taquitos someday. Being broke heats you up in a sweat that might be mistaken for a menopausal flash, and not being sure of which it is makes you want to tear up, flinch, or anguish. The pores make you wet, and you don't even begin to confuse that with bedsheet pleasure or a summer swim or a jog in a summer rainstorm. Being broke brings forward notions you never before considered. Cleaning houses for money, standing in line for food handouts, saving your napkins in a Ziploc. Being broke suggests a new normalcy, suggests a new normal, brings in a new normal and sullen gray persona with worry and wistfulness that halt your steps, makes you self-doubt. I watch people give away pocket change as if the coins are dead insects desiccated beyond life, superfluous, outdated. I watch people let their charges get rung up as they yawn at the boredom of having so much disposable income at hand. I watch people worry that they might not have booked a clean enough room, so they spring for a suite in a 4-star hotel instead. Paid enough for a clean hotel room, and maybe they should have sprung for 4 stars instead. Okay. I was working on an edit and I didn't decide. I watch people drink up their earnings. A cocktail with a shot on the side, why not? Though I finger the debit card holding a 2-digit balance with a shot on the side, it frees them to complain about their struggles in life. Instead, I create home movies with a Super 8 camera, grow lettuce, arugula, and other greens in my front yard as I gradually turn an ornamental, water-greedy grass lawn into an edible landscape outside my house. Rejoice when I have a $5 week rather than a $5 day. Spend quality time with my thoughts, art practice, family, close-knit, creative, and spiritual communities. I trade and barter, offering skills and gifts that are unique to me, unique from me, uniquely me. Build community by reminding others of the non-proprietary ways we can spend time together, teach and mentoring with each other. Anyway, kind of evaporates out.
I love that.
You did?
Yeah.
Yeah, it was great, Tammy. It was great.
Thanks. That's never shared that out loud. I have something now on the screen I can share. It's not a poem, it's a list. And it's interesting to me. It might not be interesting to you, but it's maybe a little secret. A house I lived in about 7 blocks north of here, a 2-bedroom, very humble wood frame, they call it bungalow, built in maybe the 1920s, was owned by my friend Mary. And then I was her tenant for a while before she sold the house. But I started making a list of all the people I know or have heard have been in the house, mostly as her house guests or my house guests. And it includes Genesis P. Orridge, Kenneth Anger, a poet named Ira Cohen, my friend Richard, I'm sorry?
Go ahead.
My friend Richard Ray Whitman, who I met at a New Year's Eve party in Oklahoma City. And now he's a recurring character. He plays a recurring character in Reservation Dogs, which airs on TV. But he's beloved friend, indigenous spiritual leader, elder in his communities. And he's also a visual artist and a poet. And he was at Pine Ridge when all that stuff was going down with the American Indian movement. Beautiful, wonderful person, but he's been in that house. Verbo Bala, poets Logan Phillips and Adam Cooper from Arizona. And anyway, it's an interesting list. It's like, who slept here, you know? And there are people that you know through kinships, through you know, being introduced to somebody, and then later on you find out, oh wow, they're kind of well known and like worldwide. My friend Mary wanted me to go up with her to Oklahoma City, you know, just for the ride, and we were going to meet with somebody named Cricket and her partner, and we were going to stay in a cabin just over the night for one night. And when we got there, Cricket and her partner said, hey, we met this guy out in town and he's renting a hotel. He's a filmmaker, and he's going to hang out with us because he likes horror films. And I'm like, hi, I'm Tammy. He's like, hi, I'm George Kuchar. I'm like, oh my God, George Kuchar, like New York, like filmmaker. Oh my God, underground, you know, beat filmmaker. And he, you know, just those kinds of things happen. It's so magical, and it doesn't need to mean anything else to anybody else. But to me, it's just like, wow, you're kind of an underground cinematic hero for me. And now we're just hanging out and we're going to watch Night of the Living Dead. And apparently he had a thing every summer. He would rent a cheap hotel for a week or two during tornado season, because he was very interested in trying to see a tornado, maybe experience one. So you never know who you're going to run into at a gas station or, you know, a cheap hotel parking lot. And I mean, they could be, you know, famosos or not famosos, but they're brilliant and interesting, and they're funny and they're generous, and they'll lend you $5 or you'll lend them $5. And then later on, you see their Wikipedia and you're like, oh my God, I had no idea. So anyway, that's another kind of little secret.
That was quite a list.
Yeah. Very cool.
I mean, Genesis Pure hugged my mom and said, you've got a great daughter. Because he saw me perform.
How funny. It's like I lived in this apartment in San Francisco for several years, and it's kind of a old, crazy artistic apartment for a while in this like huge old mansion. But none of us knew anything about it. The mansion had been divided into like 12 different apartments. And one day in the middle of the night, this crazy poet guy, it wakes me up and he's standing in the middle of my room. There's a story as to how he ended up there, but he's going, I can't believe I'm here. And I'm like, I can't believe you're here either, Dave. You just woke me up. Get out of here. And he's standing there in my room going, I can't believe I'm here, over and over again. I'm like, okay, explain yourself. And it turned out the mansion had, which was one of the first mansions built, or it was built in the 1880s or something, was also was a gigantic hippie mansion during the late 60s, where like, you know, like all kinds of the musicians and famous people would live and hang out. And so the whole place had been this giant, like creative, you know, he's like yanking this list. And now, of course, I can't think of anybody, but, you know, like Grateful Dead people and, you know, Leonard Cohen type people and stuff like that, that would hang out in this building. And it was called the Fly Shacker Mansion. And he's going on. And I'm like, I still want to go back to sleep. Anyway, sorry, I spoke out of turn.
I'll go next.
All right. Thanks, Jeffrey. What you got?
Well, let me start with a little story. When I was the year after I graduated from college, I went back to college and was doing dance with what the group that later became Pilobolus, if any of you know who that is. And one day after a dance rehearsal, came out and we were all sweaty and it was raining. And there was this young woman who had been in the dance rehearsal with me who was very attractive. And I said, let's go for a run in the rain. And so we went for a run in the rain and ran down to the Dartmouth College golf course. And there was a stream there. We went into the stream and there was this mud. And we fell down onto our knees and started putting mud on each other in this stream. And then we ran back and to my place and took a shower, and one thing led to another. So tell them that story because this morning when I got up, I said, I'm going to write, and Maureen thinks I do this all the time, but you know I don't, Tammy. I said, I'm going to write a poem to the topic tonight. And so this afternoon I sat down and started putting some thoughts together. And then this woman who I had that adventure in the stream with called, and she was having a crisis. And so for an hour and a half, we had a conversation dealing with her crisis. And I read her the poem that I wrote because it includes her and it helped her. And now I'm here, and synchronicity is a wonderful thing.
Wow.
So the poem that I had written is Naked versus Nude, with a nod to John Berger. You know, that comes up later in the poem. On the shower, I caught a glimpse of my reflection in the mirror and paused to look. I don't often take time to actually look at my nakedness. In my mind, I'm still 20-something. To be naked is to be oneself. To be naked is to be without disguise. Nakedness reveals itself in all one's sags and wrinkles. I looked at my naked self. I had an urge to suck in my gut and flex my upper body for the mirror, but I just looked at my naked self. I felt some sadness for the loss of the body of that younger self, but some pride for how I actually do look at my age, an acceptance for the scars and sags and wrinkles. I remembered a younger me in a younger time, when I was not only naked, but a nude. Art critic John Berger says, quote, to be nude is to be seen naked by others, seen, but not recognized for oneself. A naked body has to be seen as an object in order to become a nude. I was young, a student, enjoying being naked with my lover. We were naked, enjoying being ourselves with each other. What happens when I kiss you here, just like that? and you touch my nakedness there, like that. We were poor students. To earn some money, we answered an ad to be nude models at an art instructor's studio. We were naked together, but posed, told to touch each other just like that. And then to stay motionless, to be painted as nudes. We were not ourselves. Our true selves were in a disguise. But I know we were beautiful to look at. And I enjoyed being looked at. And in my mind, we still are beautiful.
What a
was
gift that
awesome.
that your friend got to hear it. You
Yeah,
know?
synchronicity.
Wow.
Is that someone you're in touch with occasionally or frequently, or hadn't for a while? I'm just curious.
There was a long period of time we were out of touch. And then she got back in touch, and we've periodically talked on the telephone since then. I haven't. There have been, and this is interesting part of the story. She was living in Portland, Maine, and I made arrangements to fly to see her and then go see the rest of my family in New Hampshire. And this was January of 2020. And after I had made all the plans, when I was getting ready to go, she said, "Don't come visit me, I'm deathly sick." And it turns out she had COVID in January of 2020, and before anybody knew about it. So I didn't see her, but I talked to her, and she was in a terrible place at the time. Then she moved to the Piedmont area of North Carolina, to a cabin there. And I made arrangements and flights and everything else to go see her there. And right before I was going to visit her, this was later in 2021, this militia group with AR-15s appeared outside of her cabin that she was living in and started firing AR-15s into the air, and called her a libtard and said, "We're going to drive you out of here." And so she, before I could go visit her, she left and went. So I haven't seen her in quite a while because everything keeps getting in the way. So I'm still hoping to see her again at some point. So there's my story.
I feel it's an evolving work there that you could write. That's marvelous. Thank you for sharing that. Thanks for spilling your secret here. Is she okay? I mean, you said that hearing your poem helped her today.
Yeah, actually it was horrible. Again, synchronicity. Her birthday's tomorrow, and her mother had come to visit her, and she and her this huge fight today, and her mother disowned her and said she was writing her out of her will, and stormed out. Right at the time that And so she's doing better now than she was when I first started talking to her. But I'm going to call her again tomorrow and make sure that has a happy birthday.
Yeah, I hope she does. I hope she does. That's a lot of extremes there.
I mean, I don't think she is a bipolar, when she's when she's feeling really good, she was one of the, back in when I met her, she was one of the top 5 whitewater canoeists in America. She was an actress, a singer, brilliant, and still is in a lot of respects. But she's manic depressive and would go into deep depressions. So she's been dealing with a lot her whole life. Enough said.
I'll read this piece. It's a file I hadn't opened in a while, and apparently I was listening to Elliott Smith late at night and was inspired by his song Waltz Number 2, and I wrote this. It's not really a response, but it's what I wrote. Knock, knock. I used to live here. Or knock, knock. Who's there? I used to live here. Why can't I touch it? It mesmerizes. It is the rabbit out the hat. A long longing built within, and I want to move the wisps, and my will to self-restrain wants to become untrained. So why again is it forbidden? Tell me once more. Why is it wrong? Why it is wrong? Why can't I touch it? It rings out to me its enchanting tone. It sings for only me its enduring song. And I am raining my heart in beats that fill the streets and wet the porches. How long can love unfulfilled burn our cities like flaming torches? Why can't I, how say this again? How do I hold back, and for what good purpose, sir? It holds me still like a dandelion without breath, and it wants what I want till our final death, and brings me hope in my open chest. Who can know the days I've waited, politely held back, my love negated? Why can't I touch it? How will he know where the lock is and how the gate can open? Bring water to sluice a desert barren and long verboten. When will the clock stop ticking and the light warmth go bright? When there is opening and the freedom fills the night? Why can't I touch it? Feel it real for me? Why cannot I reach it? Bring it near to see? Why cannot I hold it? Show it loving warmth? When will it sit and stay for heaven's hearts? After Elliott, 2013.
Mhm. Awesome. Awesome. Well, Tammy, I can share one if
Yes,
That's all right.
please, go for it.
okay.
Thank you, Rob.
Well, I'm really glad to be with you all tonight. And this poem, I guess, falls under the category of secrets. It's something that happened to me probably going into my 5th grade year of school. So the exact year escapes me, but I'm guessing it's 79, maybe 78, 79. And it's something that I've thought about over the years, but never really talk about with anyone. And I thought it was about time to document it and just share it. And so I call it the Christmas Mesquite Tree. Christmas morning, toys and happiness, a merry time of year for our Christian home. The long gift box is for me, a Red Ryder BB rifle, just like the movie, complete with leather tassel and little round ammo beads that looked like the decorative candy on the cakes that my grandmother used to bake. Dad showed me how to load and handle the rifle that seemed so huge, but now is so tiny in my adult hands. I'm not sure why I wanted that gift. We were not an outdoors kind of family. We didn't camp. We didn't fish. We didn't do much of anything, really. I took that gift in my hands and I ran to the laundry room and through the back door that led to the backyard, where on the other side of our chain link fence was nothing but undeveloped land, mesquite trees, brush, and whatever was hidden in the brush that couldn't and wouldn't be seen. And there it was, a beautiful little bird sitting on a branch on Christmas morning, looking like the $5 art at our local discount store. I had never shot a weapon before or any living thing, but I lifted that gift and took aim just like Dad taught me and pulled the little trigger. Suddenly, the world stopped and that precious little bird fell off the branch, lifeless and accompanied by gravity, became one with the earth in slow motion, and parts of my heart and soul rotted and dried up. It was Christmas morning, and I had become a murderer, taking the life of not only an innocent animal, but one of God's living and breathing creations. I ran inside and hid, ashamed and afraid, like those criminals with consciences do. I have often wondered if the suffering in my life is the recompense, the payback, the justice imposed on me for having taken the life of a small, innocent, and majestic creature that was only resting on a branch of a mesquite tree on the other side of our chain link fence on a Christmas morning, journeying on to who knows where. And that's one of my little secrets.
That was intense.
Oh, thank you. I think about it every now and then.
Every Christmas? ¿Cuándo?
Yes, for sure. Every Christmas. Yeah.
I love
And,
that line where you said it was the pretty little bird looking like the art in our discount
In the
store.
store.
You said something like that. It's,
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you. Yeah.
So different from the boys I knew when I was a kid who did that for fun over and over again. And I remember being so angry. I went up to one of them and said, "How do you shoot that?" And so he showed me, and I shot the top of his thumb and said, "Now you know what it feels like." And I ran home and stayed home for weeks because I was terrified they were going to get me.
Yeah.
wow.
You're a superhero.
Right.
Now, you've got like 3 or 9 million other people to do that to, by the way. So get busy.
Right. Yeah.
How old were you, Maureen, when you did that?
I was about 10.
Wow.
Bravo. Encore.
Exactly. Welcome, Rita.
Hello.
Are you Rita Vigil or Rita Alfaro?
Yes, I am.
Okay. My first guess was right.
Yes.
I guess this poem, it's very brief, the one I'm going to read now. I'm thinking of young men who, do things. If a young man, clean shaven and well dressed, had spoken firmly and gently, but repeatedly and emphatically, that one needed to take precautions because of an imminent BP oil rig offshore explosion. Would you have listened on the day before the actual BP explosion happened in the Gulf? Would you have listened then?
Hmm.
Like clean shaven, well dressed versus like an
Mhm.
activist
Yeah.
calling for the same thing.
Mm. Awesome.
Your internet is unstable, Lorraine. Can you hear us okay? How is the reception for you?
You guys keep freezing and breaking up.
Oh, man.
Mm.
Are you
You're
having
frozen
wet
right now.
weather? Are there weather issues over where you are?
Well, it was raining today. Maybe that's what it is.
Yeah.
Because when it's wet, the internet's a bit unstable. I could paste a poem in the comments and somebody else could read it if you want.
Well,
We're hearing you
like,
pretty
do
good.
you want me, I could share, you could share it on the screen if you like, if it's on your computer or screen. Would you like to try that?
How do you do that?
Well, you have permission, you all have permission to share. So at the bottom where it says share screen, for me, it's a
Okay.
green button.
Compartir pantalla.
Press that button and then whichever of the little thumbnails resembles what you see on your screen, click on that thumbnail.
Okay, just shared it. They come up.
No,
What I'm seeing are just the words that say Lorraine has started screen sharing. But the object is not there yet. There might be an okay, I can't remember what
I
There it is.
There it is.
see it.
curse. I see it.
I
We see
don't
it.
know.
We see it, Lorraine. It's up. Do you mind scrolling to the top? Is that the top?
Sounds like maybe we lost her again.
Does the poem start with "my life would have been," or are there other lines above that? There we go. Oh,
We lost the rain completely, I think.
Yeah.
oh, completely. Oh, man. I guess if she comes back, she could copy paste it in the chat. That's fine. We work all kinds of ways. Rita, would you like to tell us how your night's going and maybe share some work?
My night is going okay. I just celebrated my birthday belatedly today because I was in the hospital. I had emergency surgery on Tuesday.
Mm.
Oh, Rita. Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Are you feeling better today?
I can move around. I had an appendectomy by laparoscopy. So I can move around, but I still can't exert myself. Walking too fast or too much is daunting for my body right now.
Wow, I am so sorry. I didn't know you were experiencing that this week. I'm glad you got the care you needed just in time, I guess.
Yeah, I got it before it was it burst, so it was just inflamed, luckily. But had I waited and not listened to my body, I probably would have been in worse condition.
thank you for being here. I hope being
Thank
here
you.
makes you feel better.
I do have a poem if you want me to share.
Yes, whatever
Very
you want to
personal one
share.
though.
I mean, I'm here to listen. If you know, whatever. Yes, please go ahead.
And there's I don't know if anybody needs a trigger warning because it's about sexual trauma.
Thank you.
So it's called The Violation. He graves himself upon my body in complete violation of me, purposeful without my consent. Yet the deepest betrayal was by my own body, the response to his violation. I lay there clothed in my innocence and ignorance. What's happening? What's he doing? What is my body doing? Years later, and I live with the shame, the betrayal, the violation of my body. Normalizing it in my mind, pushing it to the side, I sit in the silence of the secret, hidden for years, hidden in my body. In silence, the pain of the violation randomly betrays my mind, haunting my emotions, echoing in my thoughts, wrestling with anger, mourning in sorrow, robbing me of my peace. Will it ever go away?
Powerful.
Thank you.
Thank you for sharing. That's very brave.
Very brave.
Thank you.
I hope it didn't hurt you to read that.
It didn't. I've worked through a lot of that trauma recently, so it's nice to know that it's I'm at that point where I can actually share it.
Congratulations. That's a huge healing process. I can only imagine, you know, how grueling and hard that has been for you. Wow. All the
Yeah.
hugs, like Lorraine said, abrazos.
Yeah. Yeah.
Thank you.
Do you need anything now that you're recovering from the surgery? I know you live here in the North Texas area. Do you need anything? Do you need people to bring you food or anything like that?
No, just lots of good vibes, and if you're of the praying kind, just keep me in your prayers.
Absolutely.
I've been doing some shamanic journeying. If you would give me permission, I could send some healing spirit to you.
Sure.
I will do so.
Tammy.
Yes, I'm here.
Yeah, I've actually have another piece that, if it's okay with everyone, I'd like to share, because it's kind of right off of piggybacking off of what Jeffrey just said.
Yes, please.
And completely different than the first thing I read. So, like I mentioned in that first piece, you know, I grew up in a in a Christian household. My mother, you know, was the one that always made sure we were in church and youth group and all those things. But on the flip side of that, they also dabbled in things that are considered to be outside of the you know, your conventional church Christian world. So I grew up in a home to where, yeah, we went to church and read the Bible and all this, but I also grew up in a home where my mother, my aunt, my grandmother were card readers. They dabbled in stuff like that. And as growing up in that home, I saw little things here and there. And then as I got older, I started learning that it may not have been just little benign things, that it actually got a little more intense and serious as we went on. And so I decided to document that too. And I call this one La Trinidad, the Trinity. Come, grandson, come, nephew, come, my son. A piece of bark from the mesquite tree, boiled in water to make a tea, and your stomach ache will be gone. An egg from the fridge and a crystal glass of water. The Lord's Prayer and Apostles' Creed prayed over your sons and daughters, and the evil eye will be gone. There's a girl in school you like, and you desire to hold her. A little arrasa con todo placed secretly on her shoulder, and she will hopelessly love you. Take the broom in your hand and go to your room. Strike the bed 3 times. Say their names aloud too, and your unwanted company will be gone. The shell and the feather, sage, copal, and palo santo, burning slowly together. The smoke dances through the house, and then the demons will be gone. Come, grandson. Come, nephew. Come, my son. We want to know how you are. Let's see. Go ahead. Shuffle the cards, and we'll wonder no more. A clear, empty glass jar and cemetery dirt. A picture of your face buried upside down with the hurt, and then you'll be gone.
I love that family history in there.
Yeah, I wish it was, Disneyland and balloons and roses, but it was brujeria and curanderismo and all other kinds of stuff.
So what was it? Asking for a friend. What is it that you no, just kidding. What,
Yeah.
what is it that you put on the shoulder to make somebody?
Oh, I was in the high school, and somebody had told us that, back home, I'm from South Texas. It's an area called the Rio Grande Valley. And down there, we call them yerberias. I learned up here in North Texas, they call them botanicas. But yerberias is a place where they sell potions and herbs and all these kind of, little voodoo, white magic, depending on what you're into. And they had told us that there was a little potion that's called arrasa todo, which I'm not sure exactly the translation, might or maybe erase everything or something, or arrasa. I'm not sure what arrasa is, but it was a little bottle. And they said that if you would put that on your hands before you were going to be in the presence of the person who you wanted their love and affection. And that if you somehow patted them on the shoulder or you got that stuff on them, that they would fall hopelessly in love with you. I can tell you now, that is a bunch of bullshit. That one is.
Didn't work.
So I was out a couple of dollars, right? With that. But like I said, I started finding out little things, and I remember my father had gone to my grandmother's house, his mother-in-law, my mom's mom, and had gone to go help her clean out some closets. And I remember he had come back in the afternoon, and I had seen my father pretty shaken up and quiet. And later on, when we were outside, he was telling me that, he had in cleaning out one of her closets, he had found a bag that was full of black candles. And so, and stuff like that. And I never saw that, and she was a wonderful woman and played organ in church and piano and all those things. But there's this whole other undercurrent. And while I don't practice those things, I'm not afraid of them. They're part of the journey. And as a Latino, male, it's very predominant in our culture. And so it's interesting to me. And I wanted to also document that too. So I hope nobody gets too freaked out with it. But
Not at all. Thank you for sharing that. I enjoyed that.
Absolutely.
I may
Another
have
little
purchased
secret.
things in a Botanica myself. I know those stores as Botanicas, like around the country. Colorado, they're called that. In San Francisco, there's but what was the word that you used from South Texas?
Hierberias. Hierbas meaning like weeds or herbs.
Okay,
Yeah, hierberias. So they call them like, herb,
sure.
centers or whatever.
Yeah.
But that's where you find all the, all these, like, there's like a million little potion bottles and
Yeah, no,
and
I know
all
those.
these,
Yeah.
yeah, and the saints and then down there, what's very, very popular, and I'm sure it's up now everywhere, is that Santa Muerte, Saint Death.
Yeah.
That's predominant now.
Yeah, I have a close
Yeah.
friend here, lives
Yeah.
a few blocks away, that he always has a central spot for his Santa Muerte art
Oh.
statue.
I'll be right back. I gotta show you something.
Very prominent.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
that
Well,
gets a lot more.
And Tammy, Tammy, it was so wonderful, and she did my podcast. I have a podcast, and Tammy was a guest on my podcast that we released the episode a couple of weeks or a week ago, and so wonderful. I'm not plugging the podcast, but I'm just saying your episode was so great. I've gotten so many great comments about it. But in October, I'm gonna have Erica Buenaflor, who is one of the leading people on curanderismo and brujeria and all that. She's going to be a guest on the program.
Oh, cool.
And
yeah.
so we're gonna talk about that stuff, and I'm gonna see what kind of potion there is that'll make my wife love me.
Oh,
You may already have that. Yeah.
I may have that.
Hey, I wanted to show this that I bought in San Francisco, not at a Botanica, but it's one of the sort of saint candles.
Mhm.
Except
Oh, I lost it.
I can't
I
see. Who is
I
that?
can't see it. Who is it?
Bad Bunny.
Is that
No.
Oh.
it's the girl from Stranger Things.
Oh, from that's
okay,
11.
okay.
11.
Yeah, that's 11 on
Ah,
a saint
Very
candle.
cool.
I
Yeah,
like
I
to
love
it.
binge, I
Very
think I'm
cool.
going to binge watch that this holiday season, because I have not seen a single episode. Maureen has to go or is about to
Oh.
leave. Just
Uh-oh.
give
Oh,
me
Maureen,
a
we
little,
missed you.
Bye,
When is
Maureen.
it?
just to take
Bye.
her dog for a walk or something. Yeah.
Mhm.
Thanks for the poem,
No.
Maureen. Thank you.
Good to see you, Maureen.
When I lived in Austin, there was a place in South First, was it? That I'd always stop into and share video. It was great.
Mm.
Well, my poem actually would follow yours very well, Roberto. Let's see if I can be steady enough for a while.
Sure.
It's called Curse. Can you hear me okay?
Mm-hmm.
Just fine. Thanks. Yes.
Those many years ago, we played at being witches, dipping our toes, our fingertips into the dark waters of the spirit world. In those days, you cursed me for denying you your man, the father of your child, my husband. These many years have passed, and I know not whatever happened to you or your curse. Do you still breathe life into it, dipping your fingers, your toes, your fingertips into those ebon waters, mirroring an absent moon? Did you forget to de-spell it? Forget all about it? Or have you simply abandoned that realm? When does a curse die, withering away from sheer neglect? Can it? Or like a berseria, does it lie dormant in the weave of the life cloth until some thought of hate or regret wettens it, resurrects it, wiggling through the skins of my being to again infect my world? I think of how different my life would have been if this had not happened or that, but I cannot take them back, nor would I want to. They were lessons I needed to learn. And do you still curse me for the lessons you were to learn, for denying you your man, the father of your child, my then husband. When does a curse die?
Ooh,
Oh,
Ooh,
woo. Yes.
that was great.
thanks for not giving up on us with that poem, Lorraine. Thanks.
Yeah.
I totally lost the connection, and I thought that I was going to have to find you. And I actually went to the bathroom, and all of a sudden I heard all of your voices again. So I don't know how you guys came back without me reconnecting. So
Lorraine, are you on a laptop?
yes,
Yeah. Do you have other internet windows open?
nope.
Oh, okay. Yeah. I mean, you might already know that, but
No, the
sometimes
thing
if,
is that
yeah,
where I'm at, we don't have broadband or
yeah,
fiber optic.
yeah. I just
No.
know that sometimes if I shut down other windows, if I'm having a harder time, that kind of helps it. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Just
Oh,
a
and I
thought.
love this range of thought about across several of our works tonight about just some eerie connections we have with other people. And I say eerie meaning not easily explainable, you know, for people that like things black and white, you know, grounded in science or, you know, material, you know, mass. Yeah, I've learned so much about each of you, much more than I knew before, and I didn't know this was going to happen this way, and I'm really digging it. Rob, I want to jump back to the poem you shared briefly
Okay.
about the potion to help get rid of unwelcome guests.
Oh,
Well, I don't know that any of my relatives are going to see this video, so I'm going to say it real fast so they can't find it on YouTube
okay.
later. I'll say it real fast. I have an uncle who, rest in peace, is no longer with us in bodily form. But when he and his wife, my aunt, who shall go unnamed, they lived in Fort Worth for a minute, and the uncle just had this way about consuming a lot of our food, and it was really tough when they would come over. And he was always hungry. He was, yeah, anyway, one time their car pulled up in front of our house, and we were just starting out our like Kentucky Fried Chicken or Church's Fried Chicken dinner. And you know, we were working poor family, so you know, we didn't have a lot of extra. And so my parents said, hurry up, put everything away, get the chicken box. We pushed it into the oven and we hid everything, and then we all rushed into the living room, turned the TV on to pretend that we were just been watching TV all this time, even though we were still hungry and we're wiping off, you know, we all had greasy lips, so we were like, we'll kind of wipe that off. And you know, my dad was longingly looking back at the table, and you know, we wanted to finish our meal, but we didn't. And we let, you know, we allowed them in and greeted them, and we had a very brief chat. I mean, they didn't stay long, and we were hoping he wouldn't smell like the aroma of food. And then as soon as they left, we ran back into the kitchen and devoured the dinner.
He wanted to know what kind of lip gloss you had, and it was KFC original. Right.
Oh, I mean, that's, you know, I've never shared that with anybody outside of our family.
Yeah.
We have
Yeah.
laughed about it in my own family, because we were like, "Que gacho," you know, like, wow, that's hardcore that we did that.
Yeah, and you know, and I have never tried that, but you know, when we were kids, and then and
It's
like I
not
said,
nice.
my mom,
Don't try it. It's
well,
not
yeah,
nice.
you know, my mom always, you know, was, like I said, had us in church and made sure that we prayed and read our Bibles and everything. But then at the same time, she'd throw these things out, you know, out of nowhere. She'd be like, "Oh, I should go into the room and hit the bed 3 times." And we'd be like, "What the hell are you talking about?" And it would be like, I mean, what is this? And then she would tell me little off and on, you know, these little stories about things that, you know, had gone on, and they just always came out of left field. And like I say, you know, she read my grandmother, my mom, and my aunt, with my mom's sister, they read the cards and they were like, they read the Mexican playing cards, the ones with the coins on them, and and they were like expert level. I mean, it was crazy. I mean, so it was just kind of strange, and of course I never really shared that a lot with people, because then they're, they get weirded out and freak out about it, but like I said, if you grew up either around Latinos, or you are one and you grew up in, I mean, some of those things are staples. Just like I said, the egg, stuff like the garlic over the door and the chilies over the door, and just things that are everyday cultural things, but they are rooted in some kind of, curanderismo, folk healing, folk medicine practice, whatever. And so, yeah, it's just a part of my history.
There's a scene at one of the the last scene in an episode of Reservation Dogs last season, and there's a storm coming, and one of the elders is asked, no, they say that it only works if it's an innocent person. So they ask, I think they ask Cheese, somebody who they think is innocent, to get a knife and slice at the cloud. You just do, just kind of motion in the air, and that kind of disempowers the storm or breaks it apart. So
Weather magic.
yeah. And so I was so amazed by that. And a lot of folks on Facebook were saying, oh yeah, that reminds me of my uncle or my cuñado or my grandfather. My jefe used to do that. And so my birthday came up like the week after that episode aired, and I mentioned it to my family. We're sitting at a taqueria having some food, and my mom's like, oh yeah, my father used to do it all the time. I'm like, why didn't you tell us? Like, we're connected, this is our part of our indigeneity. Like, who else? And she goes, yeah, and then this other person, they said that if you did that, you sliced the cloud with the knife, that the storm would dissipate and this and that. And then the storms, some clouds were arriving, because like it was starting to lightning in the distance that very night. And we looked around the table, we said, who's the most innocent person here? And my 13-year-old nephew's like, I'm the most innocent. I haven't done anything. And we're like, here, we gave him a little, table knife, and he got up in the parking lot and sliced at the cloud. And I'm like, yes, we have to share what our traditions are, whether or not you believe in them fully. It's still part of the history of the family, and I think it's a legacy I want to know about. Now he knows, and whether
I haven't seen that. I need to watch that
Reservation Dogs. Yeah,
Reservation Dogs.
Yeah,
There's a lot of cultures where you hang things by the doors, and I sort of do things intuitively, but I actually do hang 5s and E's over my doors. And every time you Zoom with me, you can see a 5 over the door in the background.
I see one right now. Yeah.
It's something about that. I've been doing it for years, but I can't explain why. But that there's something to a lot of that stuff. I was like, kind of my 20s. I was like, I went to join a whole bunch of people at people I knew who were camping for a week, and they had rented like a little campground with cabins and things like that. And I got there late, and I did a day late, and all the cabins were taken. People were using tents, except there was this one cabin that had it was a big cabin, like 6 beds or something, and no one would sleep in there. And they'd been there like 2 nights. And I was like, why is nobody sleeping in this cabin? And everybody's like, well, I don't know. We're kind of afraid of it, seriously. And there's something weird in that cabin. I'm like, how could it needs some kind of spiritual cleaning. And I said, okay, I'll do one. And, I was like, I didn't even know why I was saying it. And so they're like, no, I'm sorry. I didn't say that. These two women I knew said, you should do it. And I was like, okay, so that was some part of another story from a later time, but that sort of was caused by this. And so I was like, I don't know what to do, but I'll see if I can sense anything. And so I went in the middle of the cabin, and it was kind of nighttime. It was weird and sort of spooky and dark. And I started like spinning around in circles with my hands out. I was like trying to find something weird in the cabin, and I was making some kind of a noise, and everyone was kind of, like, what the fuck are you doing? And I spun faster and faster, and all of a sudden I stopped, and both my hands were pointed up into this corner by the rafters. They don't have like a ceiling. They're all, it was a nice, anyway.
Good night, Rita. Sorry, Rita had to go.
Good night,
Good night, Rita. Good night.
And I'm like, there's something up there. And there wasn't anything that anyone could see. So we actually got like, I can't remember, we somehow clambered up on something, and in the rafters there was an object that was up there, and it was a piece of wood with decoupage on it. And this camp in the summertime was a camp for mostly for teenage girls from, I forget, a specific country. I'm just a long time ago. So a South American country, and it was like a Catholic girls camp. And this was a Spanish language saint card decoupaged onto a little piece of wood. And the thing is that the people mostly who were camping there that week were not in any way religious, and for whatever reasons, and they were freaked out at this building. And I found this like Catholic, obviously someone had hid it there, like maybe who knows why, but this icon. And when I showed it to the people who were standing there, they all were like, what is that? And I knew what it was, but it freaked them out even more. And then I said, okay, well, we're going to take it outside. And I took it outside, and it's slightly into the woods. And I set it down between the roots of a really big old tree. And I said, the energy will be comfortable there, and the tree can have that energy. And then 6 people moved into the cabin.
Yeah.
But that happened more than once. I've done that a couple times and found really weird things that way. So.
Yeah.
What happens in your body when you have that, you sense that something is somewhere?
I don't know, because I'm not there. That's the point of like spinning around and making a noise, is I'm not trying to do anything consciously. You can't do something like that consciously. You have to go away. I don't know how else to say it. Does that make sense to you?
It does. I mean, if you had anything else to offer, I would hear it. That's all.
Yeah.
It's a very interesting topic, and I think it'd be nice to maybe have another time to get together and just talk about experiences and maybe even write something collectively about the topic. That would be cool, Tammy. But yeah, so I just wanted, as I thought about growing up, and I thought about all those things that that some people are very afraid of, but in my house it was like business as usual. And I'm talking about things like in those days, all the houses, we had screen doors, and then we had the main door, and you'd have the main door open and the screen door, and then that screen door, it would just kind of like open and shut. And and you'd say, oh well, it's the wind or whatever, but the older folks would say, no, something just came in or something just went out. And it was like this, they had this whole other perspective that it was something spiritual happening, that there was always something spiritual. And now
I've seen that happen indoors.
Yeah, me too.
That happened inside, like in a totally inside area.
So
I think
I'm a
feel a
believer,
vibe. You can feel a vibe if a house, if bad things have happened in the house, or if a certain kind of a complicated ending of life happened, sorrow has happened. If you're up for feeling it, I think you can feel something. The house next door to my mom is haunted, and I actually wrote a poem about it I'll share it next month for Halloween.
Yeah.
But the story basically
Let's have a
is that
haunting theme.
it's
That would be cool.
it's a Section 8 house. So the people who live next door now are usually, they're qualified for Section 8 housing, and there have been a series of families that live there, and it's in a corner lot. And my mom's been told various times over the last 10 years or so from various tenants that house is haunted. This house is haunted. We're not staying. We're moving out. It's haunted. And I wrote a poem about the people we knew who lived there when we were kids, when my parents bought the house. They were a German couple named Weir, like Weir without the D at the end. So we call them Weird.
Weird.
And they hated us, and they absolutely despised the fact that my parents bought the house. We weren't renting it. My parents bought the house, so we weren't leaving. And they were so racist and horrible to us. They both died in that house eventually. And so my poem is, and I'll share it next month, is about their spirits still inhabiting the space, and they have to deal with these people of color renting the house now. And they have to smell like tortillas and comida mexicano, and that
That's
kind of
good. I
thing.
like that.
And so the racists still inhabit the house, and they can't handle it. So anyway.
Sounds like we do have a good theme for next month.
Right.
Yeah,
Right.
this maybe, we're just warming up.
I'll have to come up with some. I've been reading up on my Scandinavian heritage, Neolithic shamanism, and one of the things they said is that you need to do a journey to visit the spirits of where you're living. And you need to say hello to them and find out if they want anything and give them offerings and all that sort of stuff. And so I've started doing that. I've always felt very protected here. And the apartment on the other side of that wall, since I've been here, I've had 2 tenants have died in that apartment since I've lived here. So I've got to start thinking about some poetry around the contrast between feeling safe here and what's happening next door.
Weir. I wonder if the name was spelled W-I-E-R.
Yeah, I'm not sure. My mom would know. But yeah, they were horrendous. They were rude to us when we were pedaling our little bicycles on the sidewalk in front of their house, which they don't own. That's like city property, sidewalk. And they said it was their sidewalk. And when my dad was blind, and so a trainer came over to help my dad learn how to use a walking stick, they were on that sidewalk, and they came out and yelled at my dad and the helper, like, don't do that, don't be on our sidewalk. I mean, and then they would yell at my parents. They'd have these huge shouting arguments from their front porches when we didn't go to school, because we had all these Catholic school holidays, Saint this and Saint that, and so we'd stay home, and they'd yell at my parents from their porch saying they were going to call the police because we weren't, y'all aren't taking your kids to school, and we're like, well, it's Saint Agatha Day, leave us alone. And they were scary and very hostile, verbally hostile, bad vibes people.
Yeah, I think
Richard, if they were German, they pronounced the second vowel, so W-I-E would be Weir.
Yeah, I verstehe ein bisschen. So I was looking it up, and all I could find is that it seemed to mean how. I thought I would have more interesting.
Tammy, sometimes the living are more scary than the dead. Back years and years ago, I used to deliver linen, to hospitals and restaurants and things, and I used to deliver to school districts and stuff when I was still in the South Texas, and then they changed my route, and so they gave me a route that had 5 funeral homes and the county morgue. And so the county morgue, I would get there at 7 something in the morning and they weren't there yet. So they gave me a key so that I could go in, open, get the dirty stuff out and leave the clean stuff. And then I would come back later in the day to get my ticket signed. So there were times when I would open up and I'd turn on the light and there were all these tables in the room and they'd have bodies on them that they were working on. And the stuff that I had to get was at the end of the room.
Oh, that's so
And,
creepy.
and so the first time I ever went, and I'm staring in that room, like with one eye off the wall, and I'm thinking, man, I'm just gonna quit. I'm gonna quit my job. I want to leave. And so it was one of those things, like I just ran as fast as I could down to the end and got to stuff, and I ran like hell all the way back. And so when I came back around the second time to get the ticket, the doctor who ran that morgue, he told me, "Hey, so how was it for you?" I said, "Man," I said I was scared as hell, man. I was like, why? And then he told me, he said, "You should fear the living more than the dead."
Mhm.
Is what he told me. And I found that to be true. Yeah.
Well, speaking of that, I just heard earlier today that this annual event called Glitter Bomb, and it's like a queer out, Pride festival or Pride event that happens in Denton, which is just north of here, was canceled completely because there's a white supremacist undergrad female student at UNT Denton who is causing all kinds of havoc, and now queer, gay people are afraid to be public and have events because there's some ugliness showing up at events, and folks are starting to feel threatened. So those, the living ghouls are really, I'm paying more attention to them lately.
What's interesting about that is I think about this a lot because I think that most of you guys know that I'm gay or queer, whatever you want to call it. But, I'm also in my 60s. And so, I meet a lot of queer people in their 20s who have grown up in a culture where, it's not that as big a deal in a lot of places. And now, there's just a lot more bullshit going on. And when I was growing up, we had big protests and lots of threats, and I actually been assaulted 3 times as a queer bashed 3 times, gay bashed. Once in the middle of a gay parade in Denver. I was skateboarding down the street in a gay parade with a bunch of skateboarders, and this guy walks out of the crowd and up to me and says, "Are you gay?" And I says, "Yeah," and he punches me in the face and runs into the crowd, and nobody stopped him. So, but that was 1990, and so I've been noticing, the younger people get like they're well, I don't know, it's like I don't think there's anything good about it, of course, it's but it's sort of like, that's what we used to have to put up with.
Yeah, I think it's catching a lot of people off guard, and and a lot of those folk, the opposition, the white supremacists, the neo-fascists are, they're off the rails completely. So it's hard to know or predict what they'll do. Huntsville, Texas is where our death row is. There's a prison that's pretty notorious in Huntsville, Texas, and that's where the Texas death row encampment or whatever is. It's also there's a public library in Huntsville, and there was a big controversy because the librarians of the public library put up an LGBTQ book display in the library, and it created this huge backlash and threats and this stuff. And I think it was the mayor, the head chief of the town, ordered for the display to be taken down, and the librarians locked the library, refused to take it down, and like set up camp. Like they didn't leave the library, they didn't open it on time.
I read about this. Yeah.
And eventually, they had to let it all happen, and the display was taken down. And that's also now similar situation is now brewing in Arlington, which is 30 minutes from me, Arlington, Texas, again, with the display apparently being offensive to some people. And it's going to be the topic of a meeting Thursday. So I'm trying to get the word out about that. So if folks want to go and speak, they can. But yeah, this is catching a lot of us off guard completely. And
don't those people realize that they're offensive to us?
Right.
yeah, and I had made a suggestion. I guess I'm the Fort Worth representative for Texans Right to Read organization, and we had a meeting Zoom call on Thursday afternoon, and we were all sharing like what's happening in our neck of the woods here in Texas. And I suggested, let's just show up and park in the parking lots and have our own display in the trunk of our cars. Just like we're here, and and as an ally or a queer person, I can look, I have material here, so if anybody has other creative ways to counter that BS, the hateful stuff, this can be a venue where we share those ideas if we like. It's now 9:43. I have one poem that it's very deeply held, and I'm happy to share it because it's a thing. Does anybody else? Maureen is back. Is Maureen back?
I don't see her.
She's been on the whole time. It
Oh,
looks
okay.
like.
Oh, okay.
Okay, great.
I had to take the dog out, but I didn't want to interrupt. I thought that the conversation was fascinating.
Yes, vote Beto, please, everybody. And if you don't live in Texas and want to send money, campaign support to Beto's O'Rourke's campaign, please do that. That's one way you can help us in Texas to fight the good fight.
He's been fundraising in Los Angeles because my daughter went to it, and now in New York.
That's good.
Oh,
I mean, I get like emails every day, like 50 of them from like,
Atlanta, Virginia. Me too.
progressive races in Ohio, and yes, and Atlanta and Warnock, and I don't know. Yeah. And I'm like, I'm yeah, whatever. Right.
I know. Yeah, I know. None of us have deep pockets that I know of. Maybe that's your secret. But
this organization has started up in Berkeley, of course. I think by some like, fairly well off whatever's, it doesn't matter. But what they've been doing is sorting through data to try to figure out which races, political races, are more in need of funds any particular week. And so you donate to them, they don't take any of it, and they've been sort of like funneling it to the places that need funds right now. And I liked that. I forgot the name of it, but
oh, could you send that to me this week if you think of it, Richard?
Yeah, I got it. I can probably find it.
I mean, I've been giving monthly to the candidates that I've selected to give to, but it's a couple of elections ago. I actually got to know an Arizona representative named Ann Kilpatrick. And I know her personally. I've met her and talked to her and stuff because her husband was a friend of mine at college. And so I started giving money to her. But I mean, I literally delete 70 or 80 emails a day from, I mean, almost every progressive representative running for Congress is sending me emails every day.
No. All I know is that here in Texas, our governor has gone batshit crazy, and whatever illness he has is rubbed off on the Florida governor.
Yeah.
And now they're both.
It's called running in case Trump doesn't.
Right.
You were looking at that anyway. I wrote something on my So I feel like I should tell the story, but I want to hear your poem too, Tammy. I'm not going to tell this whole thing. It's on my website this month, under the like richardlawrence.com, under the front page is titled "Don't Tell Me What to Do," and it's just one essay about this. But so you remember a guy in Austin named David Blackwell? He worked in Peach and he waited at Kirby Lane. It doesn't matter too much, but he was a close friend of mine, and we used to shoot the shit all the time when I lived in Austin. You know, like sit around for hours, smoking and drinking and talking in my apartment. And at one point there was an execution coming up. And I realized Dave was like 13 years my senior. He's an actor. Super interesting, smart guy, very down to earth. And he was sort of in a way, my mentor, one of my mentors, but I didn't really think about it that way at the time. Anyway, I was always interested in what he thought of things, and and I realized I had no idea he never mentioned capital punishment, which is a topic in Texas. And so I asked him, and I figured he'd be like, yeah, kill the fuckers or something like that, and he was absolutely against it. And I was in my late 30s at the time. I think, and I was like, oh, what's your reasoning? Because I wasn't sure what to think of it at the time myself. And his answer was, maybe it's something everybody knows of, but I'd never heard it before. He says, well, if you have somebody who's clearly a cold-blooded murderer and you're sure of that, there's no reason they shouldn't be killed. I just don't think the government should do it. And I'm like, oh, why? And he says, and I never forgot this. And he says, because a government should behave in the way that it wishes its citizens to emulate. And I'm like, that's brilliant. And all of a sudden I started thinking about the Reagan era and like all the corruption and greed and all that kind of stuff, and how it exploded into the business world. And then, a more recent era where, the behavior of leaders of various sorts, empowers people who have similar illnesses. Let's just put it that way. Similar tendencies. And it's really
Or
true.
deficits. Yeah.
Yeah. So I never, I never forgot that. And to me, anyway, it's always in my mind ever since he said that. It wouldn't have occurred to me before, but yeah. I mean, half of them just want power, but they're fucking role models no matter what.
And of course, the Jungians have a flip to that, which is we elect our archetypes to come back to, reflect back to us what we really are.
Yes.
Yeah.
Or something like that.
No, I have a 4-line poem. It's 4 lines. Where is it? It's 5 lines. Cannibalism. And I wrote this the year in like 2015, and I regretted it. The fact that we are cannibals doesn't seem to faze us as long as we have somebody to tell us that we're not. Let's elect someone to do just that. And then we did. We
Sure as hell did. Not me personally, but it happened. It happened on my watch. So hey.
Yeah, exactly.
I'll share this piece, and I've talked about it with a couple of friends, and it really threw me off when it happened. I went to see the movie by Terrence Malick titled Tree of Life. It's a great film.
Haven't seen that.
A couple of you seen it. And I was by myself, and it was at a nice indie theater on an afternoon, and I wanted to treat myself. So this is in two parts. There's before Tree of Life and during Tree of Life. But the title of the complete piece is After Tree of Life. Here it goes. Before Tree of Life. So much intent to relaxation, summer theater, pleasure. I want to put my own thoughts aside to revel and escape, churn in a sweet, buttery meld of filmic focus and somebody else's damn artistic vision. At the Angelica box office, even the sweet-faced ticket clerk became part of this untroubled odyssey when he spoke through plexiglass and softly feathering blonde bangs wisping across his eyelids. Place me in your embrace, O June julep of retreat. Allow me a few hours of tumbling, rolling, unfettered splendor. Let me learn a master's palette, fasten myself to patina of story so I simply may sink into someone else's lap, a deep well to tap for reassembly, recreation, and recharging of mine. I own a ticket, this one, and I step alone to bring fascinations to face. Destiny would have it that I doused my popcorn with too much oil, the burnt, the bitter. During Tree of Life. Tree of Life. How long has it been since I got to sit down at a movie theater? I mean, a really good art cinema house where the selection was well considered by the manager, curator, and projectionist. How long since I patted the carpet-covered lobby, eyeing the concession selections with anticipation, not so much for the nibbles to purchase, but for the true treat on screen. It was kind of random, my decision to see the Malick film, for it was the flick that was next scheduled to screen once I'd both locked my bike up to a parking post and approached the box office for a ticket. Later in my seat, with bags and seats all situated, my napkins and iced fountain drink in place, I leaned back to receive. First, images of no apparent import, a series of snapshots, family members, softly voiced overdubs, and unexplainable, almost untenable sequences of the sputtering universe with billowing winds, discharging landscape openings, troubled geographies in flux. For several minutes, it seemed I might be watching the Discovery Channel in my own living room. But how does this help tell me about family, I wondered. The scene of the aching amphibious creature wounded alone along the shore, followed by a glimpse of the schooling circle of hammerheads that had probably caused its mortal wounds in the bubbling blood along the seawater. How does a prehistoric scene of cruelty along a riverbed portend something that Brad Pitt, as father, might inflict upon his quietly joyous wife or any one of his three wide-eyed and spirited young sons? I didn't see any of this as obvious in the beginning, and it was only at the end of the 2.5-hour movie that these questions came to form in my mind. Hence, I suppose, the sequences of the bubbling earth and its spirited and unrehearsed tender first moments of existence are there to mirror the infancy of childhood and the shaking terrors that bring it to the sullied and seasoned maturity of adolescence and adulthood. Though it was painful to watch the episode where the DDT truck sprays for mosquitoes along the neighborhood block, as the children dash maniacally in the chemical mist, pretending yet another playtime premise in innocence. But few of us escaped such a toxic dousing or shower, whether literal or not, during our formative years, only to have it explode into our present with unmitigated symptoms and byproducts of trauma not earlier recognized. Inner core crumbling. I attribute it to various things: the buttery popcorn. What is in that flavored oil? The syrupy soda, the camera's obsession with the sensuous, winnowy young mother whose only care seemed to be the happiness and health of her sons. The musical score, heavily laden with classical music selections, seemed at times overdone, excessive, too heavily accenting scenes that could have spoken volumes without the strings, horns, and percussion. Inner core roiling like troubled sea waters in storm season, my intestines tightened and locked. And I can't find the arrow. And again, I thought it was the combination of soda and oil, though deeper, even deeper than my belly, a wiser self had to spoon in this other thought. Stop. Stop making him troubled. Stop demeaning, demoralizing him, whatever you're doing. And it may have no name, may have many names. It will set off a domino crash, a torment of tsunamis. You may spend the rest of your life trying to identify, cajole off your back, recover and remedy from. There are exclamation points implied in the previous few lines. I almost cannot bear it. No, I cannot bear it. I'm nauseated and frenzied in my body and mind as I lean over to give in to the turmoil inside. The images continue flashing, and they require no words to explain or describe, for I know of these undoing dialogues well. I want to be strong here, as I've always known myself to pretend, to look away with my soul while my eyes drown in the desperation, depravity, the lack of restraint. I hold myself, try to tender the unpleasant upset, and want the substances to just settle. Be there, stay there if you must, but please don't push further. Don't storm your dusts again. But sitting there, I seemed unable to quell my nausea and swirling upheaval of emotions attendant to the pain and the imagery enhancing the increasing levels of tension. Tension around the table at mealtime, tension in the garden plot, tension in the yard, tension when the drowning boy was lost forever, tension when the insults mounted interminably, tension when transgressions promise a needed sweet release but merely disappoint, confuse. I remembered Ted being insulted, Miranda being beaten, and Daddy being punched, being insulted and neglected, Miranda being insulted and punched, Ted being neglected and misunderstood, Mama being pushed around and punched, all those layers of tension and punishment, disappointment and loss, episodes of life and technicolor livid miasma. All of a sudden, I couldn't keep it in. This was not to be digested and absorbed, to be kept inside, left to rot me out. I buckled into my belly and onto my side. I felt the arm of the stadium seat poking my flesh, and I let it bubble up and retch my pain before I could try and work again. So hard to stop it all, reason it away, pretend some strength I don't have, give it breaks. I began to cry. I let me blubber. I wept with heaving sobs in my theater seat, watching the breaking, disconsolate white suburban family smear their disease, a dysfunction that mirrored my own.
Oh,
Wow.
thank you.
Wow. Thanks, Tammy. That was great.
Now I have to see that.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's one I advise people to, tread carefully. Have your, yeah.
That was pretty clear.
And then the other one I tell people about Melancholia.
No,
see
thank
that?
you.
Yeah, yeah, I mean, do not watch it at night or by yourself.
His movies are often traumatizing, actually.
I got depressed.
Lars von Trier's movies can really fuck you up.
I felt a clinical, like onset of clinical depression in that first section. And I'm like, wow. I mean, that's some
He's
kind
good.
of
He's a good
director's
director.
brilliance, but
Yeah.
no, and I warn people, do not at night and not by yourself.
Well, if I may
And
suggest,
don't eat the buttered popcorn.
yeah.
Okay,
Right.
so you know what's in the oil. Yeah, I know. But yeah, that movie. Oh,
If I may suggest an elixir of sorts, I saw a movie last week. I wasn't intending to be at the movies, kind of similar. We had a heat wave, and there's no AC out here, and I couldn't stay at home. So, but I went to see a movie that I'm telling everyone to see, and I totally forgot until you brought this up. And I'm not going to give you a review, but I left the theater changed and hopeful. And it's 3,000 Years of Longing. Go to see. Did you see it?
no, it's playing here
Just
already.
go. You can read about it if you want, but yeah, it stars
Tilda Swinton.
Tilda Swinton as a bookish woman who accidentally uncorks a gin, played by Idris Elba, and I have to tell you, it's just amazing. I mean, really, I don't know, I rarely watch a movie and I realize as I'm watching it that my jaw is just hanging open and going. It was wonderful. I'm not saying it was all like pleasant, but it was, it was in a lot of ways a giant a giant treat and gave you so much to think about.
Thank you.
I love the trailer. I've enjoyed watching the
It-
trailer for it.
Just go. Yeah, don't read much about it. You don't need to. You'll let yourself get swept away for a few minutes, and that's all. Yeah. So nice to leave.
I'm
a
glad you
theater
got to
feeling.
see it. I'm glad for you that you got to see it.
Yeah.
Awesome.
3,000 years of longing. I'm gonna type it in.
Very cool.
Thank you, wonderful people. We have
Thank you, Tammy.
spent a wonderful 2 hours together, and wow.
Thank you, Tammy.
Thank you.
Oh, thank
And
I mean,
thank
it's
you all.
about all of us together, choosing
This was
things
wonderful.
to share and reveal.
Mhm.
Yes.
And next time will be about the spirits. Yeah.
Maybe.
Mm.
I'm going to share an image real quick, and you're welcome to join me on Saturday, October 1st, if you're in the area.
That's pretty irresistible.
According to the back of the photo, which I just scanned earlier today, I was 21 months old there.
Mm-hmm.
And what's in the
Wow.
box, or what
Yeah.
was in the box?
Yeah. What is?
I like to scoot the little pennies around as moving money. That's what I do.
Box of pennies.
I have no idea why it's the photo is shredded. I don't know if it was some kind of in a tug of war. I have no idea. And yeah, I
Well-
appreciate you all being here and willing to open and listen. And I don't know which is more complex or challenging, but I really love getting to hear everything that I hear, and I'm glad I don't have to have a clipboard and be calling out names, because y'all just jump up, like, I have a piece that relates to that, or that kind of, piggybacks on that concept that was just shared. And I love that. I love seeing how we kind of interweave our pieces together with a lot of meaning and intention. That's really special. You can't craft this. You can't. You just have to, kind of open the bottle of elixirs, there's the word, and let the magic flow out.
Yeah.
And y'all, I mean, I love being a witness to this. It's, just love it.
Yeah.
I'm gonna stop recording, and we're gonna be here next month, and it looks like we're already thinking towards the theme, but we need a catchy phrase, recordando. I don't
Los
know.
muertos, nuestros muertos.
That's for November.
Yep.
Oh, yeah.
Next month is more like
No, but wait a minute. Day of the Dead is the 2nd of November. And you do this the 3rd Saturday.
sure. But I was okay, so I don't know. Is it inclusive enough of some of the things that Rob was vibing about, like metaphysical stuff, the nature of families and their curanderismo practices, that's what I'm looking at, because it felt like folks had more maybe to share on those levels.
I know. I
What about-
like that. We could do anything. We'll just share what we feel like. It'll be October 15th.
Thank you. We will be here, and yeah, it'll be wide open enough that, of course,
Well, I don't.
at a time. Oh, and who wants to wear a costume? Oh my gosh. Anything but a mask. Makeup, hats, wigs, no mask. We don't have to mask in here.
Or we could just be naked and
Or nude.
no, naked
Naked.
and not be wearing our disguise. Mhm.
I felt like we did a lot of that tonight.
I know, right?
Yeah, it's in a beautiful way. Lorraine, did you have another piece to share? Is there anything you have left that you haven't gotten to share?
There's actually, let
No.
me take a,
But I
What's
will
wrong?
write a
because
story
there's something that
next time.
when you guys mentioned about the doors, opening. Let me see if I can find that. If I can remember what it was called. Hold on a second. No, let me find it
Doors
here.
Opening. Was that when Richard was talking, somebody was talking about the cabin?
Yeah.
No.
Yeah,
No,
I love that one. Yeah, no, I
Roberto
love
was
that.
talking about.
The
Doors.
screen
No,
door.
but,
about the
the screen
screen
door and the
doors,
regular
yeah.
door.
Screen doors
the
Oh, yeah,
opening.
yeah,
screen
yeah,
door
yeah,
would
yeah,
open.
yeah. There we
We
go.
both mentioned it, but you mentioned it
Yes,
first.
yeah.
Um, because yeah, we kind of have the same. I think that's something that exists in a lot of cultures. Am I still connected with you guys?
Yes, I heard your
Yes.
few words. Yes.
Okay. This is called Enchanted Illusions. And I wrote this out in the Galapagos.
Wow.
Sometimes the rising tide sounds like rain upon my roof, or car tires sizzling upon dampened pavement. The faded stain on the floor looks like a bird, its head tucked, its wings stretched wide across worn tiles. A push at my door to open it or to click closed. Perhaps the breeze come from the sea or a spirit come to visit.
Perhaps, perhaps, perhaps. Yes.
Yes, that was nice.
Mhm.
Thank you, Lorraine. I am going to stop the recording. We had a great session. If you want to say a few more goodbyes or extra things, please stick around to do that. Beautiful night. Thank you all for your brilliance and your kindness. I really appreciate you.
Yeah, thanks, everybody.